gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you, O God, for moments like this so we could just humble ourselves, worship you wherever we are. We thank you, O God, for moments like this so we could really see you for who you are. And we're not in a hurry to do things, to meet a deadline. We're just so thankful for moments like this, where we could empty ourselves and pray. In the proclamation, Father, the word be acceptable unto you, and the meditation of my heart, O God, be pleasing as enough. Not my words, not my thoughts, always your words, always your thoughts. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. All seat, please. Thank you, Brother Mel, for reading the scripture. So if you have your Bibles with you, if you could just open it to the passage that was read to us, and that is in John chapter 21. Wow, it's the last Sunday of April. So we made it through March. Remember those days when we were grasping for rice, toilet paper, sanitizers? We made it through those chaos. And then we went through April. And now we're just going into next week. It will be May. A lot of things have changed the way we think, the way we live our lives. Oh, I don't know if all of this have changed your perspective of Christianity, of who God is in our lives. But let me just leave April with the last chapter of John chapter 21. I simply titled the message, "Do You Love Me More Than This?" Because it just reminds us that before all of these things happen, we are just so busy, we are just so consumed with a lot of things. We are so busy with our careers, we are just so busy raising up a family, we are so busy with the ministry, we are so busy chasing our dreams, we are busy applying to schools, just trying to pass grades and all these things, and all of a sudden, this happened and we are forced into our homes. It just asks the question, do you love me more than this? Jesus is asking, do you love me more than your career? Do you love me more than your family? Do you love me more than the ministry? Do you love me more than your life? I'd like to go to a verse, a passage, because I know that is verse 15, and then there is, before we jump into that question, there were a series of events apart for us to ponder, to really think about it. Let me just go through verse 1 here. Afterward, Jesus appeared again to his disciples by the Sea of Galilee. It happened this way. So this is a narrative, this is a story of John telling what happened. It happened this way. Verse 2, Simon Peter, Thomas, also known as Didymus, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and two other disciples were together. So they were in this place called in a house in Galilee because Jesus said, "Wait for me in Galilee." So they were there in Galilee, and they were waiting day in and day out They were just at home. They don't want to go out because there are fears, because there are unknown enemies around them. So they were just there. But then, one day, Simon Peter said, I'm going out to fish. Simon Peter told them. And they said, hey, we'll go with you. So they went out, got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. Okay. A simple story, a simple passage, very straightforward. We don't have to really dig deep in order for us to get the truth. It's just narrative, a plain story. Jesus told them, wait for me in Galilee, and I will meet you in Galilee. So they were just in the house, but then what happened? Boredom kicks in, and you know what? I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of doing nothing. So, why don't I go fishing? Now, the first thing I would like to remember is this. Let me just give you the first one here. Always wait upon the Lord. Okay. It's not a theological concept. It's not something that exegetical term. It's simple as it is. We always wait upon the Lord. Okay. How many of us have heard the phrase, do something even if it is wrong? I know, we saw some pictures yesterday. And not only yesterday, but this week, people are just going outside. They are going to the beaches, they're going to the parks and all of these things. And it's giving the California governor some high blood pressure. People are telling, stay at home, stay at home, stay at home. We was at California, we just love going out. So I don't know if you've seen the news lately, the beaches are packed. I mean, they just literally packed. Now when I was preparing the message, it just dawned upon me. Jesus said to the disciples, I'm going to Galilee, wait for me there. But then Peter, in all of this, he said, you know what? I want to go fishing. Maybe you might be asking the question, why fishing? Why fish? Why of all hobby, you might call it hobby, why fish? Okay, let me just give you a background. Maybe you forget a couple of things. This man relied too much on their training or previous experience. Remember, before they were disciples, before they were fishers of men, they were professional fishermen. They have the experience, they have the professional experience, they have indeed known the routine. But we have to remember though, they know the routine, they know how to fish, they know where to find the fish, they know exactly where to go, but it's not a guarantee of success. Okay, so they are waiting upon the Lord, and then there was this something in them that says, we've got to do something. I know. It's driving me nuts, doing nothing. Sounds familiar, huh? They wanted to go back to what was familiar. What they thought would be an easy transition. They were starting to remember the good old days. They were fishermen. But the good old days were never quite as easy, as good as they thought they were. Okay, so they went back to fishing. I don't know if they bought a boat or they rent a boat. I don't know if they buy the nets or they rent. I don't know if there was something like a rent or a franchise back then. But the story is they have a boat, they have a net, and they were fishing. That's very clear in the story. But then they have the visions. You know what? I'm not really sure what will happen to us, so we might as well do something. So fishing, we're professional fishermen, so why don't we go fishing? So they have this vision. You know what? Good fish. I want to eat fish. You know, big one. The one that we caught many years ago. Remember that, Peter? Remember that, Peter? When one night we were fishing and we caught this big fish. Oh, I love that fish. So they were remembering the good old days, and they were just visioning eating fish, putting some extra money in their pockets. From the extra fish they would sell at the market. So it seemed like a good plan. They have already a plan. They have a boat, they have a net, and they could fish, and they will fish, and they will sell some of the fish in the market. They will have some money, and that will make them some sort of a security. They have money in their pockets, and they could also have some meal because they could also get some of the fish for their meal. The only problem was that was not God's plan for them. God didn't told them, go back to fishing fish. Jesus said, wait for me in Galilee. I just want to just take down for a minute here and remind everyone. Sometimes the unfamiliar things made us to do the things that we are so familiar with. When the final analysis in the great scheme of things, we want to go back to the things that we are familiar of, that we know we have experience of, the things that we know that we are good at. Parang it's like a default. God called you to do something, and then when we are not hearing anything from the Lord, as if we want to go back to what we were before God called us. The familiar things. Now, okay, you always wait from the Lord. Now let's move forward here. Verse 4. Early in the morning, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples did not realize that he was Jesus. They called out to their friends, "Haven't you any fish?" "No," they answered. Okay. How long did they fish? Overnight. What is their occupation? They are professional fishermen. They know the sea. They know where the fishes are. They know exactly how, because this is for the longest time their profession. Since they're little kids. They grew up literally as fishermen. Little kids, they go with their dad, we go with their uncles or titos, and then all of them, they knew exactly this profession. This is their livelihood. So they know exactly what they're doing. But then, this particular moment, they caught nothing. Okay, the second point I would like for us to remember is, okay, first is we always wait upon the Lord. Okay, always wait on. We do not insist, well, I'm good at this, maybe I could do something right now while waiting for the Lord. God will not confuse us. When he said, wait for me in Galilee, God says, wait for him. They didn't wait for the Lord. They insist on doing the things. And so what happened? What happened? They received nothing for their efforts. they receive nothing. They toil hours and hours and hours and caught nothing. They know the seas, they know the boat, they know their skills, they know, but they caught nothing. It would be nice if they caught something. But the Bible is very clear. They caught nothing. They caught no fish at all. There are times, I repeat, church, there are times when the Lord speaks to us, not only in our successes, but also in our failures. There are times when people will cheer us, oh, you're such an amazing person. You're such good with your career. Looks like you're going to make it to this career. You're very good with your hands. You're very good with numbers. You're very good with analysis. You're very good at all these things. And we tend to hear all of the voices around us. But sometimes, when we hear all of the accolades, sometimes that accolades drown out the voice of the Lord. When praises and cheers, noises around us, sometimes we fail to hear God's voice. So church, there are times that we hang on something that we know works in the past. Sometimes we hang on to programs, strategies that aren't working, and any programs used without God's blessing would not be effective. When we do things in our own way without God's blessing, I repeat, when we do things our own way without God's blessing, we do not expect much in the way of results. What these 11 disciples discovered during was a wasted. When we do things our own way, when we do things we thought is right, when we do things that we know, humanly speaking, is humanly right, but the question is it God's call? Oh, they told hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and they caught nothing. Church, in times like this, we could just easily find ourselves doing something that we want without waiting upon the Lord. I'm not telling that we do nothing. No. What I'm trying, I know it's just too difficult to wait upon the Lord. We are used to this 8 to 5 routine, and we are programmed to do this. Oh, I will do this. I will do this. I will do this. I have to submit this. I have to meet the deadline. Oh, we are wired for that, and all of a sudden we find ourselves out of job. And we found ourselves waiting on the Lord. The next human intuition is, oh, I have to do this. I have to submit resume. I have to get my network right. I have to create a beautiful profile. We are doing this out of fear. Pastor, what will I pay for my next mortgage? What will I pay for my next apartment? What will I feed my family? That's why I'm doing these things. Have you really paused and ask the question, why, God? Why this thing happened to me? Because sometimes we are so advanced that we fail to address the very basic question, why God? Sometimes we are just filled with fear and worries and anxieties, and we fail to hear God's voice. God is telling, yeah, I know what happened to you. I know exactly what you're going through. But let me be clear. I got you in my hands. God is telling me, I got you in my hands. Sometimes we fail to hear the very voice of God because we are so busy doing the things that we thought will fix our problems. We fail to recognize why am I in this situation in the first place? Because sometimes God will allow you to be in this situation so that His glory will be manifest through you. Oh, we try to do things, we try to accomplish that we know we're not even sure if it is God's will. A year ago, I have this group of friends, and they were sharing, hey Andrew, I got hired from this company, and they post everything. They post it in LinkedIn, they post it in Facebook. Well, I don't have Instagram, or Twitter. So they were just so excited. They were so excited. Oh, they got hired with these big companies. Big companies. Wow. And they even have this picture with this company. When you go to these big companies, they have this big logo at the back, and they have pictures. First day at. So they have this picture. So they have this first day at all of this, and all these companies they were sharing to me. And then this COVID-19 hit. And now their profile says, with heartfelt sorrow, I'd like to inform everyone that this is my last day at the company. With deep sorrow, I'd like to share that I am joining the 29 million Americans who lost their job. In a matter of few months, the joy, the enthusiasm of joining companies. Now they are in despair. All of my friends out there, if you need engineers, you need this, if you could just extend some help, assistance. The video says the fragility of life. The fragility of life. Nothing is guaranteed. But for us who believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, we know who holds us. We know who holds our career, our lives, our work, our very existence. I like this portion. Verse 6, he said, Jesus, throw your net on the right side of the boat, and you will find some. when they did, they were unable to hold the net because of the large number of fish. Then the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It is the Lord." As soon as Simon Peter heard him, "It is the Lord," he wrapped his outer garment around him, for he had taken it off, and jumped into the water. If you could just visualize the story here. Throw your net on the side of the boat and you will find someone. They didn't even recognize that it was Jesus. He could have just, who is this strange God telling us what to do? We were here the past 12 hours and we caught nada, zero. We got nothing here. We've been to the left, we've been to the right, we've been to the front, we went to the back. We were here 12 hours and thinking we went in and cast zero. And this stranger tells us, put it on your right. How many times have we put the net on the right? And how many times have we put on the left? I know. You're probably out of desperation. You know what? Why don't we just, no. Why don't we just move it to the right? And then they caught a fish. The last I'd like for us to remember this morning is this. They heard the Lord's voice. Jesus was there. Right there where they needed him. Jesus told them, "I will be with you in Galilee. Just wait for me. I will meet you there." And then all of a sudden, they found Jesus where they are. Beloved, even when we start to do something that he never actually told us to do, he knew these men were hungry, tired, cold, and so he prepared a fellowship meal for them. They heard the Lord's voice. They heard the Lord's voice. Jesus provided the meal. The story goes, he knows exactly what was it like to be hungry, cold, and tired. I mean, he was with them. They had no catch and nothing from their laborers. I mean, obviously, they had nothing. But back in those days, they don't have supermarkets, they don't have Walmart. So if you caught nothing, you'll be hungry. No supermarkets, no convenience store. So if they had no food, they weren't going to be able to eat anything. So Jesus feed them. Jesus provided the meal. Jesus provided also the reminder. He encouraged the disciples, bring some of the fish they had caught. Just a moment before, it seems like the disciples heard the voice of Jesus telling them to throw the net on the right-hand side of the boat and they would get a catch. They reminded them. Jesus provided the meal. Jesus provided the reminder. Oh, I like this. Jesus provided the forgiveness. God always has a way of restoring us when we fail. God never says, "Hey, you dummy. How could you have done such a thing?" No, God desires for us to begin again in our walk with Him. When we fall down, we get up. Remember, all what Jesus did was throw the net on the other side. And they catch, the Bible says, 153 fishes. Any reason why John wrote 153 fishes there? If you read the Bible, it says 153 fishes of the big ones. It's not the small, it's the big ones. Because the description was, it's a miracle the net wasn't torn. So that net was really meant for so many number of fish. It was more than what it could carry And miraculously, it was not torn. Church, do you see how close we can be to a blessing? But if we choose to ignore the Word of God, we can miss it. The feast were right there on the other side of the boat. The desire we want to fulfill at the end of this crisis may be far closer for us than we think. We are now closer to ending this crisis. The blessings is just right beside us. We are now nearing the end of this. They said, hey, Pastor, how could you say that? They cannot even find the right vaccine, or they cannot even find the right medicines and all of these things. Hey, you live by faith, not by sight. And I personally believe that the crisis is near to its end. God is telling us to throw it on the right side. The blessing, church, is closer to what we can even expect or imagine. I'd like to close up with these thoughts. The disciples failed to remain in Galilee. That's the beginning of the story. They failed to remain in Galilee. The disciples failed to recognize Jesus. The disciples failed to catch any fish despite the overnight effort. And the disciples failed to be with Jesus at his greatest moment of need. Remember the story? Remember what they did? Peter denied it not only once, but only twice. He denied Jesus 3 times. Even the disciples, what happened when they arrested Jesus? They run! They literally run for their lives. And Jesus was left by himself during the trial and all of this. The disciples failed Jesus. The disciples failed to remain in Galilee. The disciples failed even to recognize Jesus. But despite the failures, Jesus' call is greater than our failures. I want us to, as we move on, I want us to remember this, that God called us to minister to one another. God called us to share the blessings that we have received. Majority of us in the church, God preserved our work. God preserved our business. God preserved our way of life. Can you really understand that why when some of us did not make the cut? Because God called us to minister to them. Because God called us to bless those who have nothing. And that is the calling that God is giving us this morning. We take care of those who are in the family of God. We minister to those who cannot minister to themselves. And we bless those who have nothing. So church, that is the calling of Jesus. That is the calling of Jesus. When was the last time you called someone and say, how are you doing? How are you making up this past 6 weeks? Did we ever try even to send a text to someone? We've been out and we haven't seen anyone. Did we even extend our hand? Hey guys, do you need something? Or are we just too busy making ourselves so isolated, but we don't have time even to minister to one another. Church, I know we failed one another in many ways and forms because we were just too busy. We are just so afraid. We are just so consumed with fear. But it's 6 weeks now. And I think it's time for us to roll up our sleeves and try to minister to as many as possible. And that's the calling that we have. We failed Jesus at the beginning of this pandemic. We don't want to talk to anyone. We want to close our doors to anyone. We simply want to be isolated by ourselves. And that's fine because we don't know exactly what's happening around us. But 6 weeks, after 6 weeks, are you still in your fear? Are we still in our isolation? Are we still living for our own selves? 6 weeks? May we learn to respond to the message this morning. Reach out, minister, and bless one another. Lord, let's give us this. Oh, grace Heavenly Father, God,